Hello friends, so today's video is going to be a list of some 2021 releases that I did not get around to last year and I'm hoping to read this year. I read a lot of new releases in 2021, but there were so many that sounded so good and I just didn't get around to all of them. Some books I have mentioned already in series that I'm hoping to complete if they were sequels. All of these are going to be either first books in series or there's one exception, and we'll get to that one when we're there. Jumping into it, the first one is going to be The Black Coast. I have to ask really quick, am I the only one that gets this book mixed up with The Black Tongue Thief? Because the covers are kind of similar, they have kind of similar titles, so sometimes when I see The Black Tongue Thief, which I also still want to read but don't own, when I would see it at the bookstore, I would think, oh, I bought that. Because they sound and look really similar on the covers. But anyway, as far as what this one is about, on the back, it says that there are ships on the horizon and they think that there's war coming. And then it says, saddling their war dragons, Blackkeep's warriors rush to defend their home, only to discover that the clan's people have not come to pillage. Driven from their own land by a demonic despot who prophesies the end of the world, the raiders come in search of a new home. Meanwhile, the wider continent of Narita is lurching toward war. Blackkeep is about to be caught in the crossfire if only its new mismatched society can survive. So, definitely one I'm still interested in reading. Anything with dragons catches my attention for sure, but I like the idea of this one area being caught between these different forces. I'm hoping that means that the characters maybe will even be torn between sides. I don't know much about it. I haven't seen too many people talk about it. There's definitely been a lot of other releases from last year that have been more popular is what I'm trying to say. So if I can, would love to get around to this one. Next up is a book that I had on TBRs and it was an anticipated release and I didn't get around to it, and that would be The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. This is a start to a new series by this author, and I have read Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan and I loved Bloodsong, and so I'm really excited to jump into this one. He has written some other series as well that I eventually want to go back and read, but this is his newest and I've heard quite good things. I'm so disappointed. This is, I would say, number one priority. To finish my sentence, I'm so disappointed I didn't get around to it in 2021, and it's top priority as far as new releases I didn't pick up that I want to pick up this year. So hopefully I can make that happen. I shouldn't say hopefully. I should just say I'm going to read this sometime this year, and I'm really excited about it. Next up is a book that I was planning to read, and when it came in the mail, I was like, oh, that's much larger than I was expecting. And so I substituted a different new release around the time that I was going to read that. And that would be She Who Rides the Storm. I don't know a whole lot about this story, but I was really surprised because a lot of times when I'm looking at newer releases that are going to be coming out, there's the certain ones that I think everybody has on their anticipated releases or a lot of people are very aware of. For example, Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, the sequel to Shadow of the Gods. So many people are going to be talking about that. The new Holly Black book. So many people are going to be talking about that. And then there's the ones that are kind of potentially hidden gems. There's the ones that I get excited because I'm like, I haven't really seen anybody talk about this and it sounds really cool, and hopefully when it comes out I can pick it up and just be blown away by it. And I, of course, like a mix of the popular and then the lesser known. And this seemed like a lesser known one, except the thing that really caught me off guard was that the little blurb at the top is Brandon Sanderson. And I'm like, really? Because I guess I would expect, one, his name to be associated more so with the more popular works, but also I think this is young adult, and from what I've seen, his name usually is attached to adult books like Powder Mage. A little blurb, though, by him, it says, a tightly woven fantasy heist with memorable characters and a killer premise, which I know is not saying a whole lot, right? Blurbs never do. They're just little... Like, my favorite one always is the Robin Hobb one for, ironically, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson that says, like, great for someone in the mood for good fantasy or something like that. It's like, they're always super generic, right? But either way, when I read the synopsis and when I saw the cover and then I saw the blurb and I was like, I thought it sounded really good. And then it is pretty beefy. She's pretty thick. Almost 600 pages. And I don't think there's an audiobook, and I usually like to read and have the audiobook, but either way, I'm hoping to get around to this one, like all the rest of these. Next up, we have the Conductors. This is one that I believe came out pretty early in 2021, and it sounds quite good, quite moving, and it's definitely kind of a different take on real history. So it says that Hetty Rhodes and her husband were conductors on the Underground Railroad, ferrying dozens of slaves to freedom with daring, cunning, and magic that draws its powers from the constellations. With the war over, those skills find a new purpose as they solve mysteries and murders that white authorities would otherwise ignore. So I think that sounds amazing. So basically it's murder, mystery, magic, alternate history. It's just a combination of so many things that I think sound awesome and very unique and very different. And I think there's already a sequel out. If I'm not mistaken, I think I have seen either they wrote another book that's separate or another one in this series. But I think I've seen a new one next to this one at my local bookstores. So if I read it and I really like it, I can jump into the next one. Next up, we have The Counselor. This was another one that I was so excited about. The premise makes it sound like it's basically one of my favorite things in fantasy, which is just a bunch of scheming, people trying to get dirt on each other, and people kind of saying little things here and there, and you're like, are they technically saying what they're literally saying, or are they trying to say something else? Or are they trying to be sneaky? And I love stories like that, and that's what this sounded like. And I think there's a mystery element to this as well. So it had so many things that I really love to see in fantasy, and like everything else, I just didn't get around to this one. There's actually another author who I'm very interested in reading something by, Sam Hawke. And their quote says, "A tense intrigue of unknown loyalties, political machinations, and secret magic. The Counselor explores ambition, addiction, and the consequences of power. A powerful and intelligent debut from a writer to watch." Doesn't that sound so good? There's so many of my fantasy bookish buzzwords in there. So, oh my gosh, I really want to get around to this one. Really quick, I just wanted to mention Son of the Storm and The Keeper of Night. The Keeper of Night is one that I think I'm going to save for the fall. Something about the lore in the story, it just seems very fitting for the fall season. It seems like it almost has horror aspects tied in. And then Son of the Storm, I have been wanting to read for so long. I put it on multiple TBRs and just didn't get around to it, but it seems like a really good summer read. Something about it just seems like it's going to be very fitting for the summer. So these are two others from 2021 that I'm hoping to get around to. And the last one is one where this is the exception, where it is technically a sequel, but it's a sequel that came out the same year as the first book. So I read the first book, which was a new release, and I was like, that was awesome. Can't wait for the sequel. And then turned out the sequel came out that same year, and I was like, dang it, I wasn't prepared for the sequel. And that would be The Liar's Knot. So you've probably heard me mention the first one, Mask of Mirrors, and I quite like this one. It has a very interesting, essentially fantasy Venetian setting, following a con artist who is trying to con her way into this one noble house, we'll call it, except for they don't know that this noble house is on the brink of destruction and bankruptcy. And because they're dealing with barely trying to stay afloat, they are way more suspicious than they normally would be, and they're on their guard, and it's making the con artist's job much more difficult. But within all of that, there is a vigilante type character in this very, very interesting, lush city setting. And then there's this detective character, and there's also this other mysterious man who seems to be involved in a lot of things. And it's very much a kind of noble house centered story. So everybody's kind of suspicious, and sometimes it's hard to see where people's loyalties lie. And in general, I just had a great time with it. The fantasy aspects are a little daunting because the fantasy names and just how many things there are to get used to, it can kind of be a lot. But I really, really liked it. The magic systems were very unique, very interesting, and I want to pick up this next one. I want to see what happens. There's a big reveal toward the end, a lot goes down, and I want to see where it picks up. I honestly have no idea where the story is going. That's it for some 2021 releases that I'm hoping to get around to this year, because I sadly did not in the year they came out. But either way, let me know of some books that came out last year that have been on your radar, you've been meaning to get around to them, and you're hoping that this year is the year that you're going to pick them up. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.